Hi, friends. So, we're still working on the palette out for this week, and we're going to be in that for a little bit. So, I'm just going to have a rant video for the time being. And this is perfect timing because House of the Dragon has given me my favorite bone to pick for the past 9 weeks, and I feel the need to talk about it. So, if you're not really into analytical critiques about high fantasy or historical accuracy versus just being a glut for punishing characters, or if House of the Dragon isn't your thing, or if you're avoiding spoilers, feel free to give this video a skip because we will be talking about all of it. So, that being said, a highly specific bone that I have with historical and high fantasy shows is the punishment inherent to being feminine or simply being a woman. It's been another week and another drawn-out scene of women being subjugated in an intensely gender-specific way for the gratification and convenience of the men of Westeros. I wish I could say that it was even mildly surprising at this point, but with 9 episodes of House of the Dragon and a scene like this clocking in nearly every episode, I really cannot. The world of Westeros has always fetishized suffering in all forms, but there seems to be a surplus of sadistic glee into adding scenes of women in specific suffering, screaming, and being used by around them for their own ends. And those ends, almost invariably, end up involving humiliation in some way that is never applied to their male counterparts in the same way. Whether it be the glut of childbirth scenes, of which there are almost half as many scenes as there are episodes of this season, and half of which again involve a conversation about cutting a woman open to birth the child, of which half again involve the slow, gratuitous shot of the procedure being performed while the woman begs, screams, and struggles for her life. Because, just as King Henry VIII and his wives, the show does not value this character except as a tragic token of what must be done for the good of the realm if she cannot birth a living son. Or, going further, the constant indignities of being groomed into essential breeding slavery to a character's best friend's father immediately after he essentially murdered his wife in childbirth, for the good of the realm, remember. Long panning scenes of the character just lying there dead-eyed and miserable while these acts are being done to her by a man roughly 3 times her age. But the minute she shows agency, the minute she acts like the groomed and abused child who never had access to the means to overcome her demons because she was trapped forever in the environment that broke her, she is the monster. Not those who represent the systems that did this to her. She is the monster. Or, as most recently was the case, the lingering scene of a spy master gaining gratification, thanks YouTube censorship, from the Queen's feet in exchange for information. A humiliation that was never placed upon any of the Westerosi kings that we have seen so far. Now, I don't know if Robert Baratheon had to do that with Littlefinger, but I'm going to guess probably not. Because symbolism, you see, you can hear the writers rationalizing. It has to happen this way, because this is the way the fictional world we wrote and adapted from its source material views women having power. It's not us, you see, it's the world that we wrote. It can't be that the world disagrees with Alicent's or Rhaenyra's politics or actions. It must be because they are women. For those of you who want to debate historical accuracy, first off, historical accuracy flew out the window the minute dragons flew out of the dragon pit. And second off, female emperors and queens have existed in some form since there have been hierarchical power structures, and absolutely no evidence that I've been able to find exists that they had ever had to resort to essential feet picks to wield this power. This is hardly unique to House of the Dragons. It's honestly more of a symptom of fantasy's problem with women than its main source. It both exacerbates and is born of a problem that's been there for decades and will likely be there long after you and I are gone. Fantasy simultaneously wants to discuss the suffering of women have historically gone through, make their male readers comfortable reading it, and reassure all involved that this is on some level the natural order of things at the time, while still morally condemning it by modern standards. And if all of that sounds tonally dissonant to you, that's because it's pure tonal dissonance. When your nuanced take boils down to women suffering at the hands of man is the natural order of things, and the only way to escape the system is to act like a man or be punished for being a woman, you aren't making the empowered statement that you think you're making. While I love the visual of a woman in armor, please offer more of that because I do love it. I don't think that should be the only way that a woman in modern fantasy should be allowed to be empowered. Assault isn't empowering. You don't become an empowered woman by being subjugated. Femininity isn't weakness. You are allowed to like flowers, lace, and stereotypically ladylike things, and it says nothing of your strength as a character. It does not make you lesser. It does not mean you deserve to have bad things happen to you to toughen you up. I am tired, exhausted, and sick to death of women who value compassion and mercy, or who show signs of being soft, kind, or who value beauty, being demonized and brutalized for it. And this is a really common problem in high fantasy stories. The world doesn't just need warriors, it needs singers, sewists, nurturers, and teachers too. It needs mothers. It needs people who value children and family and who genuinely want it, because at the very least, who are our warrior women fighting for, if not for them? If there are no children to represent a future wherein brutality is not all they will ever know, who are they even fighting for? Is that why Westeros shows seem to hate the break-the-wheel women so much? Is that why they feel the need to demonize women who are subjugated under the system, saying that the system is pointless and arbitrary and we need to destroy it and start again? HBO is currently working on 10,000 Ships, which is a Westeros show set about 5,000 years before the Wars of Five Kings, in the time of Nymeria and her leading the exodus out of the Rhoynar. In a first for this universe, the show is being helmed by a woman, Amanda Segal, which shouldn't give me hope. Tamora Pierce is a fantasy author and a woman, and has historically been just as guilty of many of the listed behaviors as anyone. But at this point, honestly, something has to. Because of all the things I dislike, my comments come from a place of love, both for fantasy as a genre and the world of Westeros in specific. I have spent a lifetime loving fantasy, even when as a woman it didn't always love me back. I don't feel that obliterating those who either cannot or will not physically defend themselves should be the go-to way of symbolically showing the tragedy of the world you've built. Calling women shallow or foolish for caring about dresses or seams work or flowers or something similar that they can control in a situation filled with aspects that are out of their ability to change does not make your empowered female protagonist look strong by comparison. It makes her look unempathetic and more of a little foolish. These are the only tools you gave these women to change their situation without dying in the world you built, and you're punishing them for using it. Murder, disease, murdering her children, putting everything she loves to the torch because you wrote her to not fight back, and punishing her for doing as you bid her. These things do not make you a great writer, and they do not make you a great showrunner if these are the only ways you can inspire growth in a character or sympathy from your audience, simply because they value traditionally feminine things. It just makes you incredibly uncreative.